Well, today we have a truly special moment on the show. We're joined by two legendary figures in the world of progressive rock. Renaissance emerged in the heart of the 1970s prog rock era with a sound unlike anything else, soaring orchestral arrangements, profound lyricism, and of course, the unmistakable five-octave voice of Annie Haslam. Alongside her is the founding member, Jim McCarty, originally of the Yardbirds, whose songwriting helped shape Renaissance identity and depth. I can't thank you enough for spending some time with me today. Wow. You guys, Annie, five octaves. Who has a voice like that and who has a range like that? Not many people. And when I tried to explain it to my non-musical wife, she was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Picture the piano from here to here, and that's her range." So that is so incredible.
I think
Renaissance.
there's somebody else that's got the same range as me, but she's passed into the other world, which is my mother. And I didn't know
Wow.
that I didn't know that she wasn't a singer, but I remember when I was a little girl and I was playing out in the street like kids used to, with skipping ropes and things like that, and balls against the wall and everything. And when it was starting to get dark, all the friends all our friends playing together, you'd hear my mum at the top of the street. She'd go, "Oh, Anne," and I never realized until recently. It came almost like she maybe touched me on the shoulder. "Did you hear me?" She had a voice. But my father was an amateur comedian, and he had a voice. He was a tenor. And then my brother Michael, as you know, was had a great voice as well. He was managed by Brian Epstein. I did have two brothers, Michael and Keith, passed away. Keith was a Krishna devotee for many, many years. But he could sing as well. But he was a brilliant artist. He painted. And of course, I paint as well, which is kind of odd. It's this, that was my mum and dad, but the two brothers I had. Yeah.
Did your mom and dad paint?
No,
Isn't
no.
it crazy? So where do you feel like you got your painting artistic ability?
I don't know, actually. I don't know anybody else in the family that has it. I don't know.
Did it come naturally, or is it something that you had to study?
Well, I went to art school to be a dress designer, and I did some fashion drawing and made up, designs and things like that. But there was a painting class I tried. I thought, well, I'll try this watercolors, and I thought, oh, don't like this. It dries before you finish, that kind of thing. So I never thought of painting ever. And when I was recording actually with Roy Wood and with my Annie in Wonderland album, I remember doodling a lot and starting to, do these little drawings and things, which I found recently, funnily enough. But even then, I never had a yearning to paint. That came in 2002, out of the blue. A voice in my head said, it's time to start oil painting now.
Well, speaking of voices, let's talk about your voice a little bit. It was one of the most defining features of the Renaissance sound. How did you discover the full scope of your voice? I mean, and how have you, another thing too, as a singer myself, how have you protected that and nurtured it through decades of performing?
Well, we did have a few breaks, sadly, with the band, and we didn't tour for a while. But I don't know. I never did drugs or anything like that. I smoked very, very rarely. I mean, I don't know why I did that, but not when we were actually touring, but very little. And I like to drink, but I'm not. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't crave for wine or anything, because I'm not that way. But what was the question again?
I was wondering how did you discover the full scope of your range?
I used to listen to my dad singing, practicing. And so I think there was a spark there somehow, I remember. But my mother's sister, Auntie Joan, and Uncle Eric, and my cousins, they were all in light opera. And they did Gilbert and Sullivan operettas. And I used to go when I was a little girl and sit in this box in Buxton Opera House. And we actually played there in 2015, and we did a show there where I used to. I went up in the box and had a picture taken. But I went eventually I went to Shirley Bassey's teacher, Harold Miller, because somebody heard me singing at a party and blah, blah, blah. And I did go in for talent competitions. Eric Peacock, my boyfriend, kind of did tell me to do that, and so I did well there. So when they said, oh, you should get some lessons, I ended up, he loved my voice, but he couldn't take me on because he only taught in the daytime and had a day job. And so he sent me to Sybil Knight, who was an opera singer. And that's where I found my 5 octaves and stopped singing like Joan Baez. Because you always, emulate, your idols, don't you? That's the mistake, you see. You need to find your own voice. Then you could be a big success. But if you're sounding like Mariah Carey or anybody that, whatever, they're already there. You can't, you're not going to get anywhere if you sound the same.
And it's hard. You said you took some time off, and then Jim, I got some questions for you too. You said you took some time off. That can be difficult too, because your voice it's a muscle. Was it hard to keep in practice? And
no, I didn't practice. No,
that's incredible.
No, hardly practice at all.
All right, you're making the rest of us look bad here, Annie, who have to practice. Hey, Jim, you transitioned from the Yardbirds to founding Renaissance. What musical vision were you seeking that was different from what you had been doing previously when you were with the Yardbirds?
Well, I think we wanted to, generally broaden out, do something a bit different from what we've been doing. And we've been playing all that sort of fairly heavy rock and blues stuff. And we wanted to do something a bit more gentle for a start. But we didn't really know exactly what we wanted. It was only when we got the band together that we started realizing, oh, this is quite unusual with the classical piano, because we had John Hawken, who was the pianist, and he was from a group called the Nashville Teens that were a sort of pop rock band. And he started playing classical piano, in the middle of one of our songs. And we thought, this is great, but generally we wanted a sort of more folky sort of band.
But then John played, and that was it, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, and it became like a folky prog band.
I love the beginning of Kings and Queens. That's the first, before I went for my audition, I bought the album, and when I first heard it, I thought, oh my God, I just love that. I just posted it recently, actually, on my Facebook page. But yeah, that's got all the classical in it and everything, really.
Yeah. Well, he was a very evocative player, wasn't he?
Annie, what was that like? What was that like for you to become the member of this band and carry on the vocals with this band?
Well, I was in a cabaret group for about 6 months before that. That was my first professional singing job in London, the Showboat in the Strand. And I was there for about 6 months, and I really enjoyed every second of it. It was fun. It was just interesting. And I felt like I was learning things all the time, And the guitarist came up to me one day, and he said, Annie, your voice is wasted in cabaret, He said, you should be doing something different. So he found this ad in the Melody Maker, and it was, I called up, and it said it was Renaissance, sorry. And then what I did, they were in Europe, so I bought the album, and I learned everything on it. And I went for the audition. And when I walked in, I was dressed for the part. I'm saying I was dressed as you did in the 70s, but I had a Bieber coat on. That's Freddie Mercury used to wear women's Bieber coats and things, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so I'm amongst good company then. I wore that tapestry coat. I've still got it. I can't even get my arm into the sleeve. It's so small, But oh my gosh, I got my hair parted in the middle, didn't I? So I just felt, as soon as I walked in, I just thought, this is for me. Something's going on here. Something's going to happen. And I didn't know exactly, obviously, but I was looking at my diary the other day, and I thought the audition was the day before. Well, it was actually on New Year's Day.
Oh, New Year's Day.
It was actually New Year's Day. I saw it, I've written it down. I saw it. And 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 it was in Weybridge, I think, wasn't it? Church Hall.
Yeah.
And then later that night, I got the phone call. I got the job. I sang. I actually sang with the band, didn't I? Which I didn't realize I was going to do. And I sang the song that was my favorite, which was Island, that Jim wrote with Keith.
And Jim, what was your take on that when you guys heard her voice? Tell me what you guys first thought.
Well, she was something really special, you know. As she said, she looked really good. She really looked the part, and then she sort of opened her mouth and she sang like a, you know, a beautiful nightingale or whatever.
Nightingale. Nightingale in Berkeley Square.
Yes, exactly.
Back in those days in the 70s and late 70s, I know Freddie Mercury and Queen had a hard time with the record companies because of the length of some of their songs. Did you guys face some of that same stuff with some of the lengths of your songs?
No, because it wasn't. No, not then. We were with Sire Records. Seymour Stein was the main guy there with Richard Gotterer. And no, nobody ever said, because they were so brilliant, you know.
Right.
Just honestly, but you know, they were brilliant songs. And that when we were rehearsing, it was like it was one after the other. They were all, they were just, there were no duds. You know, some people, you know, put an album out and you've got like 2 great songs, and the rest is not good. You know.
You can say that here. You're right.
That, but sometimes some people, they do, bands struggle because they haven't got, you know, but we were fortunate. It was incredible. Just, and from album to album, it was a natural progression. That was so exciting. There was never like, oh, what are we going to do now? You know, it was just, we were there and it was just magic with everybody. And everybody wrote, everybody in the band did write, which they didn't get the credit for so much. But Michael was the main songwriter, to be honest. Yeah, but everybody else did as well. It was great.
When we were together, we actually always needed a single, you know, up until the late 60s, say 68, 69. Suddenly the market changed.
Yeah.
And people wanted to listen to vinyl albums, and everything was different. You know, you didn't need a single anymore.
They've heard me talk about this on my podcast before, and I will always say this to this day. So I'm going to be 65. So I grew up in the 70s. How many songs are lost today because they don't have the benefit of buying a whole album and listening to songs that maybe are lost? Because we took an album, we listened to the whole thing, right? We listened to side A, turn it over, listen to side B. Next thing you know, there's 2 or 3 songs on that album that are hits because we bought the whole album and we go, wow, that one's a great song too. But how many songs are lost today because people are just buying singles? They're just buying them, you know, they're buying them as they hear them on these on digital, and they're not hearing the whole album. And I think so many songs are lost today because they don't have that benefit of listening to the whole album.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, definitely.
Let's talk about the Carnegie Hall concerts. What were those performances like, emotionally, personally, and musically for you guys?
Oh, well, we had, I remember we had some rehearsals with the orchestra and choir, and somebody came up to me in the choir or to do with the choir. I said, you're going to be the choir master as well? I said, no, you know, I don't read music and I can't write it either, you know. The little things you remember. The rehearsal was just in my mind blowing, because when we first heard them, you know, playing our stuff, same as when we first, you know, recorded an album and the orchestra came in, it was like, oh, I know John Tout and I cried a lot. We were the 2 emotional ones, you know, but Carnegie Hall, oh my gosh, it was just incredible. And the audience were all dressed up. All the fans that had seen us over the years, you know, some of them were really scruffy with jeans.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was fantastic. We did 3 nights there, and the 3 nights sold out, I think. And then after the 3rd night, we went to a club called Ashley's. And the owner was a huge fan and invited us down there for a party down at Ashley's in New York. And I got so drunk. I mean, I wasn't drunk where I was legless, or was I? No, because I was still dancing. Terry Sullivan and I, we found out who wanted to dance and who didn't, you know. And Terry and I we were at one point dancing with a glass in our hands. We're still dancing, you know. And then we'd be jiving, and he's really good at jiving, Terry. And so I enjoyed that. We did that. We wouldn't. God, I don't know how long we were dancing, you know. But playing that music with a full orchestra and choir, oh my God, it's just.
Oh, it had to be magical.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the music is just timeless. It's so special.
With your upcoming shows, they're described as storytelling meets performance. What made you decide to present the music in this reflective narrative style and the band's history?
Well, I never would have thought of it. A promoter in Edwardsville contacted me, and he said, "I'd like you to," because we played there last October. We did 2 shows, and they were the last 2 shows on our farewell tour. So, I mean, that was it for me. I was about to have my knee replacement in January, you know, so I was, you know, there was all kinds of things sitting into place. But, and he said, I'd like you to bring, this was September, and he said, I'd like to bring you down again to do a 1-woman show. So I thought, okay, what do I do? He said, tell your stories. Oh, God. He said, everybody loves your stories. I said, no, I can't do that. That's not enough. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I probably could if I'd had a few to drink, but what's that? You know, I don't want to do that. It's like I don't want to write a book, you know, although I'm almost haven't we, with all this lot we've been going on about. But and so I said no, and then he kept on and on saying, no, we've got to find a way of doing this. So we thought, well, we've got to bring some music in somehow. I didn't really want to bring the band into it. So we thought about, well, I'll bring a guitarist in and a different keyboard player, whatever. We didn't, you know, we were just throwing ideas around. And then all of a sudden, it's like this angel or something tapped me on the shoulder and said, why didn't you call Jim McCarty? He's perfect. You know, he started the band and he wrote the song I got the job with. So that's what happened. And when I thought, I bet he's busy, because I know he'd been touring with the Yardbirds. And he said, no, I'm very interested. And that was the start of it. And then we thought, well, what are we going to do for other musicians? And then in the end, we decided, you know, we might as well just bring the band back into it and try and build the show around, you know, everything. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
And we've done the story of the Yardbirds as well, you know, so I'm used to it. I've already done a tour this year, you know, talking about the Yardbirds history. So I enjoy it, and people are very interested, you know, to hear what happened in the day.
Absolutely, because when you first start out, you really don't have any stories, right? So life happens, and then you have these amazing stories, and people love to hear the stories. It's about storytelling. That's what this podcast is about, too. It's about hearing the stories from the people, the soul. You know, it's our lives, you know, intertwined together with the music, and we just love having you guys on. You know, when you were talking about Carnegie Hall and looking out and noticing that the people were all dressed up, what is it like for you both today as you look out at the audiences that are coming out to see you, and what are you seeing from the stage? Is it older, younger, and
old people?
Well,
no, there's always always been a mixture of ages, you know. I mean, a lot of the faces in some that, especially like places like New York and Philadelphia, I can look at and think, oh, I know who you are. Oh, I've seen you before. Oh, hello. Yeah, you know, they're all the same people. It's wonderful. And then they bring their kids and grandkids, you know. So it's wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Yeah. The young kids are really into it as well.
You know, with so many iconic songs that you guys have throughout spanning 5 decades of history, I mean, how is that selecting a set list for a show like this?
Well, Annie's done the set list.
We tried to, you know, to put it, because like with anybody, when you see your favorite band and you don't see them for a year, then you want to hear the songs that your favorites, you know. You have to really think about that more than anything, really, when you playing. I mean, we always used to have a good amount of old things, but some, you know, some new things in there, like the Mystic and the Muse. I don't know if you've heard that, and Symphony of Light. This that all fit as well with the older music. But yeah, coming up, this one is like just doing the ones that we know that are the favorites. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to have done more, but the thing is, with the catalog we have is so huge.
Right. That's why I was asking how do you pick, you know, what you're gonna do?
I always had that problem. What are we going to do? And why don't we put in Can You Hear Me Call? You know, what a great song. And Touching Once. You know, all these amazing songs, but you can't do it. You know, you really do have to think of the fans and what they're paying to come see, you know, and then what they want to hear, you know.
What song from your catalog means the most to each of you now? And has that changed over time? So is there one that meant something to you earlier in life and then that's kind of changed, or which one is that now for you?
I think Song of Scheherazade. I think it's a masterpiece. Oh, I thought you've frozen, but you like that.
No, I'm looking.
I was looking. I thought, oh, and you were like.
Frozen in time.
I thought we'd lost you. Anyway, I think it's a masterpiece, and it just more so recently. I don't know why. I didn't listen to that album, Carnegie Hall album, for a long time. I didn't want. I don't know why. I was afraid I wasn't going to like it. And then when I played it, I thought, oh my God, how stupid! It's unbelievable. What a great album. Ashes Are Burning, everything on it. But you feel it as well. And I think we used the Rolling Stones
rig.
Yeah, the you know, the one that move around. What do you call that?
Oh, the mobile.
Yeah, mobile studio. You move around a bus. No.
Are you coming to the show, Gordon?
Yes, I am. I'm going to come to the show.
We're going to play a couple of Illusions. Do you know Illusion?
Yes.
We're going to play a couple of those songs, and apparently somebody's coming 1,800 miles to see those.
Who's that?
So I heard.
Really?
1,800 miles. Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
So you guys, speaking of the show, it's at the Wildey Theater in Edwardsville, Illinois, and it is the 21st and the 22nd of November, correct?
Yes.
So how long is the show? How many minutes is the show?
I think it's about 2 hours and 45 minutes, something like that. Jim and I are going to be talking for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to be doing Jim's songs. I'm going to be singing, backing up Jim. I didn't know he could sing like that. Pretty good, actually, but it's really good. Really good songs.
Will we be seeing some visuals on the screen as well from the past and things like that?
Yes, of course.
Well, I want to thank you both for spending time with me today. And Annie, thank you for rearranging the time today. I know this morning it was
because it makes sense that Jim would be part of it. He would have been sitting over there, you know, like listening to me. What's the point? So I think it worked out much better.
Well, Annie and Jim, I want to thank you both so much for your time and for your music. Renaissance will be performing The History of Renaissance at the Wildey Theater in Edwardsville on November 21st and 22nd. It's a rare opportunity to experience not just the music, but the stories and the journey behind one of the most unique bands in rock history. Thank you both so much for your incredible music that you've been able to share with us throughout the years. And we look forward to seeing you live and in concert in Edwardsville.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.